Hello and welcome to Challenges for the Small Firm. This 50-minute webcast is brought to you by CPA Practice Advisor Magazine and Avalara. I'm Gail Perry, Editor-in-Chief of CPA Practice Advisor. And before we get started, I'd like to explain briefly how CPE for this webcast works. The webcast is 50 minutes and qualifies for 1 credit of continuing professional education. If you plan to earn CPE for attending this session, you must stay with us for at least 50 minutes. We may actually go over a few minutes, but you have to be there at least 50 minutes to qualify for CPE. And in addition, we will display polling questions during the webcast. In each poll, you need to record an answer, as this is our verification that you are still watching the webcast. You'll need to answer at least 3 polling questions. Later today, you'll receive an email from CPA Practice Advisor containing a link to your CPE certificate, assuming you met the qualifications for certification. Please note that we can give CPE credit for multiple people at the same location. So if there are others in your office who would like to attend this event at the same computer, please have them join you now. At any time, you can enter questions in the Ask a Question box provided on your screen, and our speakers will try to get to as many questions as possible during the presentation. Questions not answered during this broadcast will be addressed by the speakers afterwards. If you have any difficulty answering polling questions online, you can post your answers to the polling questions in that Ask a Question box, and we'll record them there. We are grateful to Avalara today for making this event possible and for enabling us to offer a free CPE credit to our attendees. Also notice on your screen that under that Ask a Question box, there is an Event Resources option, and there you can download the PowerPoint slides for this presentation. Today we're joined by Marianne Fisher, Stacy Bennett, and Kasheen Smith, who will be presenting this webcast. I'm going to let them introduce themselves, and then we'll get started with the presentation.
Thank you so much, Gail. Before we get started with introductions, I just wanted to review quickly kind of our agenda that we set up for today's discussion. We're going to start with introductions, as Gail had mentioned. Then we're going to jump into really a discussion today. I know everybody kind of wants to hear from your peers. So Stacy and Kasheen, we're going to have a discussion with you kind of around tax compliance and the challenges that your clients are facing, the value of you, the accountant, the accounting firm, how you help your clients with these challenges, and then the role of tax automation. At the end, we're going to go through an introduction of Avalara for accountants and how that technology can help accounting firms as they service their clients. And then we're going to finish the session with a Q&A, as Gail mentioned. So let's jump into introductions. My name is Marianne Fisher. I'm a Senior Strategic Partner Manager at Avalara. I specifically work with our accounting partners. I've worked with the accounting profession for over 13 years, helping to support them with transactional tax and really focused with sales and use tax in the last 5 to 6 years. And many of you might have seen me. I've been a featured speaker here at many industry events. So with that, I want to introduce Kasheen Smith.
Hi, everybody. My name is Kasheen Smith. I work at Ledger Gurus. We provide client accounting services, especially to e-commerce clients. And about 5 years ago, we started our practice with sales tax. And now we have about just a little bit less than 100 clients and have gained lots of knowledge through the mistakes that we've made and the things we've tried out and didn't work out. So I'm super excited to be here to share with you our experiences, and hopefully you can avoid some mistakes along the way. So yeah, happy to be here.
Thank you, Kasheen. Stacy.
Yes, so my name is Stacy Bennett. I am a staff accountant at Paget Business Services in Littleton, Colorado. We are a small business accounting firm. We serve clients from a variety of different niches. So I get to see the industry from a whole bunch of different angles. And many of our clients have sales tax. We're a team of 9 accountants and payroll providers. We do payroll, sales tax, and personal tax, pardon my pet walking across my desk there. Yes, we do payroll, sales tax, tax preparation, bookkeeping, and accounting. And yeah, I'm excited to be here as well. Sales tax is something that is woven throughout our firm. We've helped a bunch of different companies, again, as I said, in different industries. So yeah, I'm excited to share what we've learned along the way.
Yeah, we are too. And thank you to both of you for taking the opportunity today to share your expertise and kind of give your tips and tricks. So we're very grateful for your time today. So with that, I think, Gail, we can start with poll number 1.
Okay, this is our first polling question. There will be 4 altogether. What is the size of your firm? And we'd like you to choose between the range of 1 to 5, 6 to 25, 26 to 50, 51 to 250, 251 to 500, or over 500. So pick the one that fits you best. And as I mentioned before, if for some reason you can't answer the question on screen, go ahead and put your answer in the Ask a Question box and we'll record it there.
And one of the reasons we specifically picked this polling question is we really want to customize our discussion today to our audience. So this helps us to understand who's in attendance today and really helps us to be able to guide that discussion that we're going to have in a few moments. So we'll give it about another 30 seconds. Make sure everybody has the opportunity to get that in. It is important, obviously, as we mentioned with the CPE. So I think, Gail, if you want to count us down if we're close here.
Yeah, it looks like actually we're pretty close to getting all the responses. So let's just give it another 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. And it looks like we're seeing about 70% of our audience is in the 1 to 5 range. And then the rest are spread across the other ranges.
Excellent. I think this fits really well then with what we've got planned for this session. So with that, let's jump into our discussion. So we're going to start with tax compliance and why it's challenging and really start to outline kind of the client story and what your clients are facing as they're working with sales tax compliance. So I want to start out our discussion with why is it challenging? And here at Avalara, we've really, we've done a lot of surveys. We've worked with a lot of different types of clients as well as the accounting profession to get a clear understanding of kind of what's going on, what clients are facing. And really there's 4 main reasons that stand out to us. And it's changing regulations. They're always changing. And it's important that, clients as well as accountants are keeping up with that. There's evolving market dynamics. Tax is multi-jurisdictional, so it changes based on the jurisdiction that the clients are doing business. There's ongoing confusion and complexity, ongoing changes, rules, rates, trying to keep up with them. I think recently I saw there's about, on average, 600 rate changes per year. It's hard to keep up with that. So that's what our clients are faced every single day with. And then the last one, risk mitigation, and that requires resources and expertise. And I think that's really the story we're going to get into is how do we deal with those resources, right? And where do we find those expertise, especially if we are a smaller firm that might be limited in some of these resources. So with that, I want to bring Kasheen in. And, I'm curious, we look at these 4 reasons and kind of what your clients are faced with. But with your experience, you're talking to clients every single day. What stands out to you, or what are you hearing from clients that really is impacting, their day-to-day with sales tax compliance?
I think the biggest thing that I hear from my clients over and over is they do not understand where they have nexus. Sometimes they come to a conversation, don't even really know what nexus means. And after learning about that, they don't really understand how there's different types of nexus they need to keep track of. There's physical presence, then there's economic nexus. If they're a marketplace, then they need to keep track of their nexus in a different way. Some states are still enforcing the click-through and affiliate nexus rules. So the first step is to understand where they have an obligation for sales tax. And that's usually the hardest step. After that, then the conversation becomes a lot easier, guiding them through the next few steps. But it's really just the very first question is, what's their obligation with how the economy has grown and evolved into? Most of the people are selling on multi-channel. Some people are even selling overseas. So that just brings lots of things to discuss when it comes to their nexus footprint. So that's usually our first conversation with them. And it's usually the longest conversation as well. And after helping them understand where they actually have an obligation, we have to explain to them that every state has different, they have different website to register, their own website to file. depending on like every state has their own rules deciding like what filing frequency you're going to get. So the project management then becomes a huge headache for my clients because every month they have to keep track of when they need to file, what states they need to file, the due dates. Sometimes it's the 20th, sometimes it's the 25th, sometimes it's the 15th, sometimes it's the last day of the month. So, and they are in quarterly for some states, monthly for some states. So summarize, I would say the initial conversation to help them decide and understand where they have an obligation is difficult. And then the ongoing project management is a huge headache for my clients as well.
No, I think that's a really good summary. And you started with Nexus and that whole idea of like, where are they obligated to file? And I think that, it's very similar to what we're hearing is the confusion around those obligations and where that falls in. So I think that's really important and an important piece of this. Stacey, your thoughts? Anything different or anything that you kind of are seeing trending wise the same way?
Yeah. One of the challenges that we come across, I'm located in Colorado, which if you're familiar with sales tax legislation in different states, Colorado is one of the most complex out there. And so, for us, you don't have to be a multi-state e-commerce company to be in the same situation that Kasheen described. You can be a pizza delivery restaurant, and you're also in the same, situation where you're filing multiple different sales tax returns at different filing frequencies, at different sales tax rates. And so figuring out, how am I going to collect Littleton's rate versus Denver's rate, and then Inglewood's rate changed this year, but the other two jurisdictions didn't. And so there's so much constantly, rapidly changing upkeep, and just in even a small geographic footprint here in Colorado. So I would just add that piece that you don't have to necessarily even be a large company doing service in a bunch of different states where you've got Nexus. Our clients are dealing with this, if they're making less than $100,000, servicing 50 clients a year. So it really can be a challenge to manage for companies of all sizes.
Especially in Colorado, they just came up with the retail delivery fee last year.
Yeah.
And I've heard so many complaints about that, how it didn't really give business enough time to implement everything that they need on their back end to actually collect this fee. So yeah, Colorado is definitely one of those states where you hear it and you're like, ugh.
And, to that point, I'll add, one additional thing is that, clients that are using different types of software for their sales processors have different mechanisms built in to collect and report the sales tax that's been collected. So sometimes, the way that Shopify reports the sales tax that you've collected is different than how Square does. It groups the localities and jurisdictions differently. And so even reading your reports and figuring out which jurisdictions you collected how much in can be challenging. When you throw in a curveball like this retail delivery fee, the software companies weren't prepared to report on it in a way that was sane and understandable for business owners. And so, figuring out, well, how do I collect this new flat fee separately from other sales tax and report on it to these different taxing authorities? It can get just overwhelmingly complex.
I think that's a really good important point. And as we transition here to the non-compliance, because we talked a little bit about like, what are your clients facing, but what happens with non-compliance? We talked a little bit about Nexus, and I was wondering if you Stacey, maybe can just define for me, what is economic nexus? It is a newer idea, especially, from the last few years when we talk a lot about regulations and changing regulations. So if you don't mind for me, just kind of going through what is economic nexus and what does that mean?
Yeah. I'll give a brief explanation, and Kasheen is certainly welcome to expand upon it since it sounds like something that's something she speaks on quite often. But your economic nexus is basically what triggers your liability in a certain area or jurisdiction to have to file sales tax. So that can be anything from you have a physical location in that geographic area. So you've got to collect and remit sales tax, or it could be that you've met a sales threshold. Let's say you have shipped over $100,000 in products and sales to this geographic area. So even though you don't have a physical presence in that area, you've gone beyond that trigger point where now you're responsible to collect and remit sales tax.
Yeah, that sounds perfect to me. The way we talk to our clients and fellow accountants about it is there's these two big tests that would trigger Nexus. It's like a light switch. Once you have Nexus, you have to start collecting. When you don't have Nexus, all the sales leading up to hitting that Nexus threshold, you don't have any liabilities. So the first one, like what Stacy talked about, is a physical presence test. So if you have people or property, you have Nexus with that state. And that state can legally require you to be their representative and to collect sales tax on their behalf and remit it to the state. The second one happened in 2018 over a Supreme Court case. That's the Wayfair and South Dakota case, where the state actually won in the sense that the new rule, which is the second layer of Nexus, is if you have enough economic activity, if you explore the markets in a certain state enough to the extent that the 200 transaction rule or the $100,000 of sales into that state, that economic activity is enough of a connection to the state. So the state have legal authority to have you to be their collection agent again. So it's these two tests, but most states have the economic nexus being about 200 transactions or $100,000 in sales, like shipped to that state within the previous or current calendar year. So it resets every calendar year, but there are 3 states, New York, California, and Texas, because they have bigger economy in those states. So their thresholds are a lot higher. They're $500,000 for remote sellers to give small businesses a little bit more of a break.
Excellent. This is why we have you guys on today, right? The expertise here is so important. So now we kind of know the obligation, like when are we obligated to do sales tax? And Kasheen, I'm going to pull you back in on this one because you probably deal with non-compliance, right? So it's like, what happens? What are the risks that you see as you're working with clients when it comes to non-compliance? We put a few figures together on the slide here, but I think, just your experience or your expertise around that would help here.
Yeah. So with non-compliance, and we always say like that's just the biggest tragedy in sales tax is when you could have collected tax from your customers, but you didn't realize that you already have nexus either through physical presence or economic activities, that you didn't really collect tax and the state found you somehow because they have like various ways of finding companies to audit. And now you have to pay tax out of pocket plus penalties and interest for being late in filing and reporting these taxes. So we've had a few clients that came to us because they got a notice from the state. They are under audit, California being one of the most obnoxious ones. And they send out notices and they audit companies. I've heard from some sources that sometimes the auditors just go, especially with the e-commerce business today, they just go and Google like the top 10, let's say this product in this industry, and they would go down the list to see if they're collecting sales tax or not, because they are assuming if they're big enough, if they're the top 10, they must have economic nexus in California. And we've all heard of California and Washington and Pennsylvania auditing all the Amazon warehouses and Amazon sellers. So a lot of it is clients coming to us because they've received a notice or they're under audit by a state. And the state is not only asking them to pay sales tax that they did not collect, but also there's penalties and interest on it. I think Washington's penalty and interest can be up to 29%. So it's just a huge liability because all these businesses, let's just think if their margin is about 10%, which is pretty good, but sales tax, the average sales tax rate is 8%. So not collecting sales tax and being audited and having to pay that out of your pocket pretty much wipes out any profit you got for that year. So that's just the horror story that we've heard, is just failing to collect sales tax and being found by the states.
No, I think that's a really important point you make around the margin and the profit. I mean, it can be a big hit potentially, right? That, and how do we help with risk mitigation? I think that's a really good transition into kind of your role and the accountant role. And before we jump into that, I want to open up, Gail, if we can, pull number 2 for our audience.
Sure, just a second. Sorry, there's a printer going on in the background. Okay, our second poll question is, how many clients do you have with sales tax obligations? And the possible answers are none. Some, around 25%. Many, about 50%. Most, about 75%. Or all of your clients have sales tax obligations. So choose the one that's closest to representing what's going on in your firm, and then click Submit.
So what do we think? I always like to kind of guess on this one, but Kasheen, Stacy, do you guys have an idea here, or a guess you want to take?
I would probably say a third to half. Yeah.
Yeah, about the same.
Yeah, I would say probably a half if I were, based on my conversations with firms and clients. I think that's definitely reasonable.
Okay, well, the answers are in, and we didn't really have a third as an option. So we have about 66% of our respondents are in the 25% range, or I would say between 25 or under 50% anyway. So, and we have about almost 20% are saying no sales tax clients.
I hope coming out of this discussion, I think what we're going to learn, especially just learning from the economic nexus and the obligation conversation we just had, there probably are more clients than we even know that might have sales tax obligations, especially because of the complexity. So hopefully that's a takeaway for the audience coming out of that. All right, I want to jump into the value of the accountant, the value of you and how you're servicing your clients with sales tax. So I want to kind of start with, these are the 4 pillars I look at, and I'm really open to Stacy and Kasheen's thoughts on this. But how do we help meet our clients' needs? What do our clients need from you, the accounting firms? And I put this in the 4 buckets of address compliance, help with compliance. How do you help your clients with compliance, helping them understand some of those complexities we talked about? Being their trusted advisor, somebody they can turn to ask these questions, especially these questions might be some that keep them up at night. Deliver value and helping them really be able to do the compliance and get the compliance out the door to those jurisdictions. And then last, I would say this is probably the most important, is help them mitigate that risk. We just talked about kind of what happens with non-compliance. And I think that is a really, really important role for us in the accounting profession to say, this is how we can help. So Kasheen, I'm going to kind of turn to you, thoughts on these 4 pillars, anything that really stands out to you in terms of your role as a trusted advisor.
Yeah, I just want to follow up on what you said, that one thing about mitigating risk. It just made me think of how, as an accountant, we should be safeguarding our clients' assets, and with sales tax, and how big of an exposure it presents. Last year, we have clients that are going into mergers and acquisitions. They're buying and selling, and they have to set up a reserve for sales tax that the old company didn't pay for, and that reduces the sales price of the old company. So sales tax really should be a conversation everywhere when a business is formed, when a business is expanding, when a business is being sold. So I think the most important thing is most business owners, they just want to have a conversation with an accountant first to understand what certain things mean. Like, what's the difference between sales tax and use tax? Am I a remote seller? How do states determine how often I should file my taxes? Like, it's just like these basic information they need to get a clear understanding of. And we usually start by having a nexus analysis to talk to them, to ask them those questions that we just talked about. Where do you have employees? Where do you store your inventory? Do you have a company-owned vehicle that's driving to different states? Do you have salespeople that are traveling into different states? Then we look at their sales information to get an idea of their economic nexus footprint, to see where they've hit the threshold. And this ties into helping them mitigating the risk, because from this analysis, we can tell them you're approaching risk, you're approaching the thresholds, or maybe you've already passed the thresholds and you need to register. Most states actually give like a 1 month to 3 months grace period between when they pass the threshold to when they need to be registered. There's only like less than 5 states that really ask you to collect tax on your 201 transaction, or the transaction that happens after you cross the economic nexus threshold, which is just not very practical in today's world. So most states give you a grace period, and that's where accountants can come in and help you be compliant. We can help you register, and then we can help you manage your project. We can help you manage your filings, so you don't have to worry about it. And I have this clothing store that I shop at locally. They sell online, and the owner's husband files their sales tax. And he said every 3rd week, he's just so stressed out. He's always like, he can't even sleep. He's talking to his wife about, oh, I think I really need to file that Ohio tax today. Like, it really like consumes people's lives. And that's where like accountants come in, that we can take that burden off of you to help you like project manage this, to make sure things gets filed on time. And then the last point is, you will get notices from states. They'll ask you questions. They'll tell you the rate's been changed. They'll change your filing frequency. They'll tell you that you can't file by paper anymore. You have to file electronically. You have to enroll in this new program. And Maine and Pennsylvania, they just switched portals beginning of this year. So you have to migrate your whole account. And that's not something business owners like to deal with either. So this is something accountants can help as well.
Excellent. Yeah. And I think it's a really good point. And it's funny, like, we are hearing from clients like, this does keep them up at night. This is a stressful, sales tax is stressful because of those obligations, because of the risk we talked about with non-compliance. So Stacy, I want to bring you back in here in the conversation, because, for a small firm, and, how do they help? Sometimes resources might be tight. So I look at this end-to-end compliance journey we've put together to say, there's a few different ways and opportunities for accounting firms to kind of be involved in the end-to-end compliance journey. And that can be from helping with compliance services to adding value through advisory services. But it doesn't have to be that specific accounting firm. You can partner if you don't have internal resources. You can partner with other firms that do have those resources. You can lean on technology, which we're going to jump into these technology conversations. But I think this journey here just kind of shows, here's how you can help. And I'm curious, Stacy, talk to me a little bit about your firm. How are you guys working with these clients? And what is it, when you look at this journey, where do you guys fall into place here?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think that all of these pillars fall into what we do. We one of the first things that we look for when we bring on a new client, and just kind of expand a little bit on what Kasheen said, sometimes there are clients that don't even realize that they should be collecting sales tax. A good example of this would be a gym or a fitness center, where primarily what they're doing is service providing or service-based business, but they sell protein shakes or supplements or just water bottles, And so those types of, businesses, we have to be on the lookout for, like, should they be collecting sales tax and they're not? Or should they be collecting sales tax on these construction services, even though they're not? Should they be including the materials and collecting sales tax and they're just invoicing out a flat rate, right? So we start by looking at the kind of business that our clients are doing and whether they know it or not, addressing, are they compliant that they should be collecting sales tax in the first place? And then once we see they either should or they are collecting sales tax, are they doing it correctly? Are they collecting all of their sales tax to their home jurisdiction, even though they ship 90% of their products out from their home location? And so we have to be on the lookout for, even if they're not asking us directly, are they doing it right? And are they compliant? And if they're not, how do we have a conversation with them? Let them know what the risks are, let them know what the right answer is, and then equip them with whatever tools or solutions we can provide, which unfortunately, as sales tax is getting more and more complex, is something that we can't usually do in-house if they are the type of sales tax filer who needs to be remitting returns to multiple different jurisdictions on different filing frequencies. And we serve a lot of clients on a fairly small staff for what we do. And so we have had to turn to folks like Avalara for technological support, so we can say, we will facilitate this process as part of your ongoing accounting. And we have a partner that is helping us actually do, the filing of the three dozen different sales tax reports you have to do every quarter, that kind of thing. So assessing it and then offering them the solutions and helping facilitate the setup of whatever solution we're going to implement is what we do.
Excellent. And I want to bring in an audience question because it kind of fits really well with this slide. At the end here in the workflow, we've got documents. And one of the audience questions we're getting is, is there a best practice for small practices or small firms and how we share documents with clients and making sure that that's done in a secure environment? Any advice that either of you have for that question?
We usually use HubDoc to share documents with our clients securely, and it's very easy to use.
Excellent.
Yeah, I like to use the different tools that are available in their accounting software if possible. So for instance, Xero has a file sharing where I can request documents, and then when my clients respond to the request, they can upload the documents that I requested right there into the system. I like that solution best because it also keeps all of their documents tied with their accounting in one place, so they don't have things over here in one storage area and things over here in their accounting.
That's a really good idea. Yeah.
See, this is the value here, because there's no right answer, there's no right way, but it's interesting to hear from our peers of what are we doing and what works for each other. So I love this. This is great. So jumping in now, and Stacey, you did a really good job of kind of setting this up for me and kind of talking about the role of automation and why automation is so important in this workflow. So I'm going to kind of come back to you on this discussion. But before we do that, Gail, I think we're ready for poll number 3.
Okay, this is our third polling question. And it is, are you currently providing sales tax services? And your options are yes, no, but we're going to start, or I don't know. So pick the one that best applies to you and then click submit. And remember, if you have any trouble answering your question online, you can post your answer in the Ask a Question box and we'll get it there. So, all right, you guys, what's your guess as to where answers are going to fall on this?
I'm guessing yes. I think that somehow, some way, I think these firms are providing this because I think there's so much client demand out there. I still think a lot of firms are tweaking what that looks like and what the service delivery looks like. So that's my guess.
Okay.
Stacey, Kasheen, do you have any thoughts on that?
I agree. I think it's for sure, like, it's on their mind. It might not be like, it's not like all of their clients, but I'm hoping that they're serving a few so they get a taste of how complicated sales tax is.
Sure.
So it looks like we've got about 58% saying yes. And maybe we should have included an answer that says no, but I think I'm supposed to be doing it.
That's a good one, Gail. I think for next time we've got to include that. That's great. All righty. So let's jump in here on the technology question, because I know we want to save some time at the end for some questions. But before we even start with technology, like, why automate, right? So we showed the workflow journey. We showed kind of what pieces take part of this compliance, but why automate? And, I'm back to my 4 pillars of, visibility and like client collaboration, client firm collaboration, processes, driving consistent processes, time savings, manual, anything manual, there's that burden of how much time is it taking? What does that look like for the firm as well as the client? And then from a strategic standpoint, can we then open ourselves up to providing different type of services or potentially more value added services? So Stacey, I wanted to kind of bring you back in because you did such a good job of kind of moving us into that technology space of, why and what value is technology bringing to you for your firm?
Yeah, this is such a great topic. I've seen, I've been in the accounting industry now for 5 years, and the automation related specifically to sales tax seems like just part of the normal evolution of our industry towards more automation, less of the manual data entry. We've got bank feeds now to take the place of all of the manual data entry that we used to do. And we saw that by integrating those technologies, we're able to do so much more for our clients in terms of advisory services around cash flow, around profitability, et cetera. And I think that sales tax, we're on that same slope where it's been a manual process. It's been something that you've got to do one by one largely. And now we have the opportunity to have that automated and take some of that. It's kind of low, I don't want to say low reward, but like low strategy, low involvement, and like kind of unsexy work off of our plates to free us up to have better conversations with clients about the things that are really going to drive the strategy in their business. They're going to drive the profitability in their business. So for me, why automate is a matter of like, this isn't where my intuition and where my advisory services are really maximized. This is the compliance piece that has to be done. So I want that done as quickly and easily as possible to free me up to have conversations that really add, extreme value to my clients.
My takeaway is the non-sexy work. I love that. Yeah. Because I get it. I totally understand what you're saying in terms of, like, what does that look like? And can we get to a point where we're taking the data that's coming out of the compliance and using that data to then drive different strategic decisions? So, Kasheen, talk to me a little bit about technology and the value that technology brings to your firm.
I just think it's like my team at Ledger Gurus, we would not be able to do the work that we do without the help of technology. It's one example would be sales tax holidays. So there's these sales tax holidays that happen in about 20 states, different time of the year for different length of duration for different products. And I think Florida had like 11 different sales tax holidays last year. So during these sales tax holidays, you need to make sure if your product falls into this category, then you can't collect tax for customers in the States from this day to that day. And how do you manage that for your clients without a tool that you can tell the tool, this is what I sell, and the tool itself will get updated information from the states, so they will automatically turn off and turn on tax collection. So that's like last year we struggled so much with that. And then another example is just rate changes. When a rate is changing, if there's no economic nexus and all I sell is from a brick and mortar store, then everything I sell, I charge at the rate where the sale happened, which is my location. But now with e-commerce and with shipping going into other states, the rate you're charging your customer is by the ship to location. It's where the product is shipped to, the destination rate. And there's so many different rates in the US. How do you keep track of all of that? Like, there's no way to even generate the invoice for people to pay without technology telling you this is how much tax you should charge. And then when it comes to the filing side, I had my bachelor's and master's are both in tax, and I love tax. I would fill out tax forms. I think tax is sexy. So even sales tax forms, I'm fine filling out forms. But what drives me crazy, and what I think it's just so unattainable, is the level of details these forms require. For California, for example, you don't just take all your sales to California customers and put it on a line that says gross sale and then take out deductions and then pay tax on your taxable sale. You have to allocate all the tax you collected to different counties, cities, and special districts. And you don't get that information when you send out an invoice. You don't ask your customer which county you're in or which special district, like their fire department or forest special district, because customers don't even know this information. So I'm happy to fill out the forms, but I don't know how to organize the information in the way that each different states wants me to without the help of technology. The technology really helps my client to organize data in a way that the state accepts. They break down all the sales data into different counties and cities and special districts. And then I can go in and just audit the numbers to make sure the numbers look reasonable to me. And then the technology has a fighting team that files the return. So I don't have to be the one that's inputting, 20, 30 pages of data for all these counties and cities, because all the local jurisdictions wants their money. So they want a line on the sales tax form. There are a few states that's just a flat rate all over the state, which I love, like Indiana, love Indiana. But like Colorado, so hard. I would never file a Colorado return by hand. So
No,
yeah,
I
but
love
that's
these
just
examples.
my take. Yeah, that's my take.
No, but I
It's
love
the
the real life examples.
It's the rate changes. It's the sales tax holiday restrictions of all the settings you need to manage, and the actual filing the form and organizing the data.
Yeah, these real world examples are exactly what you guys are facing every single day as you're helping clients, as you're working with these clients through their compliance challenges. And I think that's the important piece of, when we talk about how are we helping them, it's leveraging technology to help. And you don't have to be an expert in everything. You can lean on the technology to help you with that expertise and those resources that you need. So we have about 10 minutes left, because I want to leave roughly about 5 minutes for a Q&A at the end. So I want to jump into kind of what the indirect tax workflow looks like and what do we have to do every month? I'm using the example of the monthly client that has to file their sales tax every single month, whether that be the 20th of the month or whatever time frame that is. And from a accounting firm perspective, what is that process, right? It's getting the data from the client. What did they collect? It's making any adjustments that we need to make. It's approving those liabilities. And then it's, the return prep. It's the file and pay, and it's the notice management. And, this is, to me, kind of what we talk about, like with consistent reoccurring processes. And this is where technology really can bring in efficiency and productivity into this workflow. So, Stacey, I'm curious from your perspective, when you look at technology, how are you guys leveraging it, and where does it really make the biggest difference when we look at this workflow for you?
Yeah, I would say the data import and data adjustment, and then the return prep, like those 3 steps are the most time consuming of all of this. We do the same, monthly accounting every month. It's really the sales tax that needs to be locked in and ready to be remitted to however many different jurisdictions they're going to be filing and paying to. If it was just as simple as, one return. I can just take their gross sales. I can take out anything that was out of state, anything that was exempt, and then be left with one net taxable sales total. That would be something that would be really easy for me to manage, on, just quick and easy part of their normal work. But what we're actually dealing with is we've got clients, who are remitting sales tax to 15 different jurisdictions at different rates with different filing frequencies. And I need to be able to really quickly identify what each of those are so that I can post what their liability is in their books and get all of their returns prepped and filed by the different deadlines. So, for me, the technology has, taken the normal monthly workflow that would be easy and manageable if it was just simple, and taken the most complex parts of it so that I can weave those in to my normal, simple monthly workflow.
Love that.
Does that answer your
Love
question?
That.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it kind of shows like the value, right? Of like, this is making it easier. I can do more work in less time by taking advantage of where you kind of pointed out, these are my time consuming aspects.
Right.
So with this, I'm going to jump into a little bit and just kind of explain a little bit what Avalara, the program we've put together to help the accounting profession and how we can help you guys from a technology perspective. And then I'm going to bring Kasheen and Stacy back at the end to kind of do a wrap up, and we'll jump into some Q&A. So with that, quick introduction to Avalara for accountants and how we can help with the workflows that we've talked about. So how do we support accountants? How do we support the profession? We have built Avalara for Accountants, and it's a powerful program that's developed specifically with the accountant in mind and how accounting firms service their clients. So what are the needs the accounting firm has to be able to service their clients with sales tax compliance? So there's 3 ways that accounting firms can work with us under the Avalara for Accountants umbrella. And one is being able to easily refer clients to Avalara. So for instance, if you're a firm that, maybe you don't have the resources or you're just not quite ready to do sales tax compliance in-house, not a problem at all. We can work directly with you and your clients. We'll help you. We'll help your client evaluate the right technology. We'll help with the setup for that. So really kind of leaning and leveraging that technology within your client relationship. The second way that we work with accounting firms is we have designed tools for practitioners. So those are for the firms that are providing sales tax compliance in-house, and you need the tools to be able to review the returns, be able to process those returns, be able to file those returns, handle money movement. We've built software to give you the visibility you need and the services you need to be able to manage a large number of unique clients, because we know not every client's the same. So those are tools that are licensed by the accounting firm, and the accounting firm is using those tools to service their clients in an outsourced type fashion. And then the third way in which accounting firms can work with us is we offer an implementation program where firms can get certified to help implement Avalara solutions in-house on behalf of their clients. So very unique ways in which accounting firms can work with us. This is customizable. So you may have a few clients that you just want to refer over. You may have a few clients where, hey, you're doing the sales tax returns in-house and you need the tools to be able to do that. So that's what's special about this program, is it's very unique and it's very customized so that the firm can really decide client by client what is the right way in which they want to service their clients. And with that, I just wanted to show, we talked a little bit about that workflow journey at the beginning with Stacy and Kasheen, but I wanted to show from an Avalara perspective that we are able to kind of fit in different solutions and different technology to help throughout this. So we can help identify, nexus through our tax research solutions. We can help you register in the states you need to be able to register, help you collect and manage any exemption certificates. We didn't talk a lot about that today, but again, this is the part of the process. When it comes to actually calculating the sales tax, being able to have the tools or solutions to do that in real time, and then file and remitting those returns, and then lastly, documents. So we really have a way to work with your clients as well as you, the accounting firm, through all of these different type pillars along the workflow. And with that, that's a quick recap kind of how we work with accounting firms. And now I want to bring Kasheen and Stacy back into the conversation because we want to talk about next steps, right? We've talked about, what your clients are facing, what non-compliance looks like, the risk of that, the role of the accounting firm and how important the accounting firm is in helping mitigate risk and helping with compliance. And then the role of technology and how, accounting firms can leverage that technology. But when we look at these next steps, it's really, and I kind of boil it down to, we should be mentioning sales tax with clients. And this is a great time of year. We're all in front of them for tax purposes or other type of reasons, right? They're all reaching out to accounting firms. So great opportunity right now to really bring up sales tax and ask them, how are they doing it today? What are they, is it keeping them up at night? Then from an accounting firm perspective, deciding how is the best way to service those? Do you want to refer and use a technology solution to just help your clients make sure they get what they need through a referral motion? Or are you ready to potentially add additional services by bringing sales tax compliance in-house? Define your technology strategy and really work and think through, how do we want to leverage technology? How do we want to evaluate our technology? And I think the most important here is say yes. When your clients are asking you for help, say yes to your client. Because you can leverage technology through a referral motion. You can leverage other firms who have expertise and resources to help you. And you can either then decide to bring those services in-house through compliance. So you have so many options. Really, the answer now should be yes, we can. Always be yes, we can help you. And then lastly, broaden your expertise. So we have about 2 or 3 minutes left before I want to open Q&A, but I want to kind of lean on Kasheen and Stacy last minute here to what advice do you have as we close out our discussion? What advice do you have for the small firm that may be offering sales tax services today, but are looking at how do we expand or how do we reach out to different clients that we haven't been able to in the past? Kasheen, I'll start with you.
Okay. I think my advice is to have a conversation with your client. To start from a point of, I want to help you mitigate your risk. This is something you can do preemptively, so you don't need to be surprised one day. So have a conversation with your client and know that sales tax is complicated, but with the help of technology and all of us accountants that are working in sales tax, we can all help you to develop a good sales tax practice. It can be done. Say yes to your clients if they need help with sales tax. Use technology, ask your peers for questions. Stacy and I will leave our information at the end. You can always reach out to us. If you need help, any questions you have, we'll help you sort out things, but say yes to your clients because the states are getting more aggressive and they'll probably get audited at one point or the other.
Excellent advice. Stacy.
Yeah. I would just add to take it slow when it comes to implementing some new technology. I would not advise to roll out sales tax as an offering to all of your clients at the same time, or even to, if you're already offering sales tax, roll out this new integration with Avalara all at the same time. What we learned when we started partnering with Avalara is that there are parts of the process that were messier than we anticipated, or things that we needed to work out. Our staff needed training on the system. And we were very grateful that we rolled it out in a fashion that we were working with a few clients that we had established great relationships with, that fully trusted us, that were willing and understood that we were doing a new product. And that really allowed us to roll out the offering and get trained on the offering well before we started offering it to other clients. So I would just say, this is very exciting. And if you're looking at this and thinking oh my gosh, I absolutely want to jump on, I'm ready to integrate this, do so in a way that is going to give you the time and space to work out the kinks with your clients before you start bringing everybody on board. Because I think that what we don't want is for this really great solution to become something that is frustrating or something that you write off as an option because the process of integrating it is more challenging than you expect. So that's just what I would add.
That's excellent. That's excellent advice. I think, learning technology, it takes some time. It takes understanding that and really being able to partner with some of those clients that, are on the edge of technology or on the edge of services that understand, hey, you guys are working through an introductory service offering is an excellent advice. So I got about 3 minutes left. I want to do a few Q&As, but before we do that, Gail, let's do our last survey, our last polling question.
Okay, our last question is are you interested in learning more from today's speakers? And that would include Avalara, Ledger Gurus, Padgett Business Services, or you could select all of the above or no thank you. So choose any of the above. You can check as many of these as you want, and then click the submit button, and we'll have that recorded.
And anybody that does respond saying they would like to learn more, we will pass that information on so that you can, reach out, be in touch with any of those individuals that you asked to be in touch with.
Super.
And while Gail's finishing that up, I know we're close to time. We did a pretty good job getting close to time, but I do want to open it up for one or two questions. And then as Gail mentioned at the beginning of the webcast and the broadcast here, we will follow up with any questions that we were unable to get to live today. So Gail, are we ready for Q&A, or we still got some answers coming in on our polling?
We can go ahead with Q&A at this point.
Excellent. All right. So with Q&A, we're going to open that up, but I also want to mention if anybody wants to contact any of us, Ledger Gurus, Padgett, or Avalara, please feel free. We've put our contact information up here for you. So we've got a good one, and this comes back to the advice. So what advice do you have on how to advise clients on if they have sales tax obligations? Who wants to take that one?
What we do is we send out a survey, like an end of year survey to our clients, and we ask them questions on, did you hire more employees? These questions that are very closely related to defining what their Nexus footprint is. If they have, like, what channels do they sell, and then sell on. From these answers, we kind of get an idea of if they need sales tax help or not, and then we would follow up that way. So we gather information, and then we schedule a quick call with them.
Excellent. Stacy, do you have anything you want to add there?
I would just say for us, knowing off the bat whether or not our client needs sales tax is, the first place to start. And, I'll share kind of an embarrassing example, but in Colorado, grocery items are not taxable. And we have a client who is a coffee distributor. They roast and distribute coffee. And we collected sales tax, or we continued their process of collecting sales tax for about 2 years before we realized that we were collecting sales tax on a product that's actually not taxable in Colorado. So I would say being on the up and up with your own knowledge of what is taxable, or being partnered with a company that does have the answers to that, is the number one place to start when it comes to advising clients. Because once you have the information, you just do what you always do with your clients. You pass it on to your clients.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Excellent advice. So we're at the top of the hour. I know our Q&A was somewhat short, but I think, we were able to answer a lot of the questions coming in throughout the presentation, which was excellent. So with that, Gail, I'm going to pass it back to you to close us out.
All right. Thanks so much. And thank you all, Marianne, Stacy, Kasheen, for an excellent presentation. We hope all of you who attended today enjoyed this webinar. And you can find all of our upcoming webinars at cpapracticeadvisor.com/webinars. We'd like to thank you for sharing your time with us. Thank you to Avalara for making this event possible. and for enabling us to offer a free CPE credit to each attendee. And speaking of CPE, just as a reminder, you'll receive your CPE certificate in your email box later this afternoon. Actually, you'll receive an email from CPA Practice Advisor that contains a link to your certificate. If you have any questions after that about CPE, you can contact me directly at gperry, Gperry, at cpapracticeadvisor.com. As soon as I'm finished with this little wrap up, you'll be presented with a post-event survey for this event on your screen. We hope you'll take just a moment to fill out the questions so that we can continue to improve our webinar series. Once again, thank you everyone, and our audio will end now.